But it's down to you to say that. I've chosen this. I've chosen to feel great about it.
More than anything, look at the words you are filling your mind up with that are shaping your reality. And if you don't like your reality, change your words.
If there's anything in your life that you haven't got, being motivated, putting yourself first, believing in yourself, I promise you, it's because your brain thinks you don't want that at all. And if there are things you'd love to have that you haven't got, and if there are other things you have got, like procrastinating and not believing in yourself, your mind thinks actually you like those things. So you've got to be very careful how you dialogue with your brain. I'm going to show you how to do that in just a minute. But the most important thing is your mind does what it really, really, really thinks you want it to do, and it's always acting in your best interest, even when it's not in your best interest at all. So the best example I can think of is, let's imagine this is a classroom of children, and you've got to read a word out loud, and you're reading bridge, the word bridge, and you're like 6, and you get to bridge, and it's got a D in it, and you go bridge, and everyone in the class laughs, and goes, oh, you can't even say the word bridge. And your mind starts to look at what's causing you this embarrassment, this stress. Oh, it's being in front of people. It's opening my mouth and speaking in front of an audience. Never do that again. And now you start to say things like, I'll never do that again. I'll never speak in public again. I'll never draw attention to myself again. And of course, you're 6. When you're 36, you've forgotten. And then you go to speak on stage, and a little voice in your head goes, oh, no, 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 don't do that. Remember when you were 6? Or maybe it just says, don't do that. So your mind is acting off old information. And what happens is one of 3 things. Either you go, oh, no, I can't speak in public. Oh, I just can't do that, and you don't. Or you try very hard, but all the time you're anxious, you're nervous, you're taking beta blockers. Or the third way, you say to your brain, I want this, I've chosen this, I like this. This thrills me, this elates me, this delights me, this sets me on fire. And then your brain goes, really? Okay, well, that's very clear to me. So that's what will happen, and all the resistance goes away. But it's down to you to say that. I've chosen this. I've chosen to feel great about it. And I want you to remember this. It's very important. You can say whatever you like to yourself, because you have choice. You can say, that's killing me, that's a nightmare, that's a disaster. But you know what you can't choose? What happens to your body when you say, I'm at my maximum bandwidth, I'm dying under the stress, I'm falling apart under the pressure. So you can choose to say those words, but you can't choose what it does to your body. So why don't you choose to say, I love this, I like it, I've chosen it. And I'm going to give you a sentence that will change your life. I have chosen to do this, and I've chosen to feel great about it. So if you're building your own business and you're going to spend all weekend working on your website, you can choose to go, this is hell, this is so unfair, everyone else is out partying, I've got to work on this website all weekend and it's stressing me out. Or you can go, yay, this is great, this is my business, I want to work all weekend on my website. I'm choosing it, and I'm choosing to feel great about it. Because I promise you, your mind does not care if what you tell it is good or bad, right or wrong, healthy or unhealthy. It doesn't even care if it's true. It lets it all in.
If you woke up with that thought, it's hopeless, nothing ever works out, everything I touch turns to you know what, all my relationships go wrong, I never get promoted, in fact, I can't keep a job. How do you think you would feel if you thought that thought? Well, you'd feel terrible. You'd either feel angry or hopeless, more hopeless, or sad or depressed. You might have inertia. So you think a thought, and when you think a thought, you feel a feeling. People say, no, feelings come before thoughts. They actually don't. Apart from the feeling of falling backwards, in every other area, thought comes before the feeling. So you think a thought, then you feel a feeling. Now, the feeling you feel will dictate the way you behave. If I feel hopeless, I'm not going to see some hot guy and go, hey, you look cute. Do you want to have a coffee? I'm not going to go to someone and say, hey, would you employ me? I'm not going to go to people at work and say, do you want to come to my house? I'm having a barbecue. I can't take a risk because I've thought a thought. I'm hopeless. Nothing works out. I felt a feeling sad, depressed, angry, pointless, hopeless. And that feeling will dictate how I act, my actions, which are often no actions. I now have inertia. I'm scared of risk. It dictates how I behave. I don't do anything to get promoted. I've even stopped going on dating sites because I know I'm going to get ghosted. And now I'm just, why am I sitting at home doing nothing? Well, because I've gone back to the thought, it's all hopeless. What's the point? So that's a negative loop. But imagine if you made it a positive loop. Hey, I have an ability to make things work out. I'm talented, I'm gifted, I'm nice, I'm warm, I'm a good person, I'm smart, and I've got this magic technique that makes things work in my favor. Now I've got a thought. How do you think you feel when you have that thought? Will you feel excited, positive, confident, ready to take a risk? And because you think a better thought, you have to feel a better feeling. And now what kind of actions do you think you take when you think a better thought, feel a better feeling? You go, hey, you look cute. Who are you? There's something about, I'd love to talk to you. Hey, you know, I've been doing this job for 4 years. I've done some research. It's really time for promotion or a pay rise. You take risks because the only risk in life is not to take any risk at all. Every risk you take will teach you something. So better thoughts, better feelings, better actions, better behaviors. And people say, how do you do that? I go, well, I believe in myself. People say to me, how do you go on stage and speak to thousands of people? I go, well, I love it. The first time I went on stage, I was so nervous. My knees were knocking. I held onto that podium for dear life. Now I don't even have a podium. But my first thought was, what if I'm no good as a speaker? Which made me feel nervous, which made me cautious. I didn't want to walk away from my podium in case my hands were shaking. And when I changed that, I thought, I love speaking. It's an amazing thing to do. I felt excited, and that dictated my behavior and my action. So everything peels back to how you think. Everything goes back to your thoughts, and that's very good news. You know why? Because your thoughts are yours to change. So are your beliefs. So are your feelings. So are your behaviors. I'm going to show you today how to do that all the time. And so amazing. And when you do it enough, it stops being what you do and it becomes who you are. And then you will win at almost everything because it's who you are, not what you do. Over 33 years, I see clients. I'm going to give you an example. I worked with a lady called Diana, such a lovely lady. She's on one of my courses, and she was going through extreme grief. Her husband and both her sons died of lung cancer. They were all very heavy smokers, and she blamed herself. And she had no hope that she could have any life because she'd lost her husband and 2 children. And she was maybe in her late 60s. When I worked with her, she began to see that it wasn't her fault. She couldn't have kept her husband and sons alive. She tried, but they made decisions. And so she began to see that she could use something from that. She actually trained with me, became a therapist. And one of the things she specializes in is stopping people smoking because it's so important to her. And she uses the story of her husband and her 2 sons to help people realize that if you are a chain smoker, a heavy smoker, you're not really going to go to a good place. You have to stop. And it isn't just what you're doing to you, it's what you're doing to your family, your partner, your children. So you might say, well, what does that all mean? Well, she couldn't change that tragedy of losing her husband and both her children, but she managed to change what it meant to her. And I've seen many people who said, you know, that happened to me. I lost something important and I learned to fight back. I was assaulted. It was terrible, but I went into the business of helping people. One of the girls on our training course said her teacher said to her, wow, the brains ran out when they got to you, didn't they? And she thought, I'm going to be a teacher because I'm never going to let any child going through my education system hear that again. And, you know, for me, I had a situation, people think I've had a charmed life. Well, I almost have, but I had a situation, gosh, I don't even know how many, it must have been at least 16 years ago, where I lost a baby. And then the person I was with left me because he couldn't deal with the fact that we'd lost this baby. And then I got fired from a television job I had that I loved. It was a lot of loss, a baby, a partner, and a career that I loved. One part of my career, but it was being on this television show that I loved. And I could have said, wow, you know, this is terrible. I've never, ever had depression in my life. But that event where I lost 3 things like a domino thing, I thought, gosh, I know what depression is like. And I've never had that before. And now I feel really more equipped to deal with clients who have depression, because I know they're going to wake up in the morning and the first thing you think is, oh my God, I've got to think again about the baby, the boy, the job. But I decided to help other people that felt like that. And that's when I wrote one of my books, Trying to Get Pregnant and Succeeding, because I felt so, when you're depressed, you go so in yourself. And the last thing you want to do is go shopping or go out. So I thought, well, I'm at home, I'm feeling a bit lost, let me write this book. And now I look back and I don't regret any of that. It's hard to say I don't regret losing that baby, but actually I'm married to my wonderful husband. I can now see that that just wasn't meant to be. If that had all worked out, my life would have gone in a different direction. I'm glad it didn't go in that direction. So the hope I had that while I'm feeling this low, I could write a book to help other people wasn't false hope, because I look back now, people write to me from all over the world and go, hey, I had a baby thanks to that book. I had been having 8 rounds of IVF. I happened to be in New York and this girl rang me and said, hey, I heard you're in New York. Please, please, please do a session. I've just read your book. Trying to have a baby for 12 years. She came along, I did 1 session. She was pregnant a month later. She's now got 2 children. And so I feel that I had to go through that pain to get to a level of understanding to help others. But that hope wasn't false hope. I knew when I wrote that book that it was taking me in a better direction. And we can all do that no matter how bad it is. We'll say, yeah, you know, I was in this awful situation. But later I thought, well, I can't change it, but can I use it? Can I do something about it? And many people use that to totally change their career. And that's a wonderful thing. So your words shape your reality. If you don't like your reality, it's really time to change it. Don't like your reality. Your words create it, change them. The way you feel about everything is down to the pictures you make, but even more the words you speak. And you can start to change the words you speak. I'll give you an example. My little girl came home one day and said, Mummy, how does Claire get on the ceiling? I'm like, what do you mean? Because I don't understand how Claire is on the ceiling. And Claire was her friend's mum. And she said, because she's always saying she's going to go up the wall. Now I met Claire. Claire was super stressed. I said, you know, Claire, when you keep using this, if you get peanut butter on the fridge, I'll go up the wall. If you get crayon on the carpet, I'll go up the wall. You're actually future pacing. What you're saying is, if you do the things that normal kids do, I will lose my mind and go up the wall. And when I had a little girl, nobody loved having a baby more than me, because I was sort of could never, ever, ever have children. Ever. It wasn't possible. I couldn't get pregnant. And if I did, I would never carry one. But I did. And I noticed a lot of my friends, they say things like, oh, my baby's killing me. Oh, I'm going insane with tiredness. Oh, this is so stressful. I noticed myself occasionally saying, oh, this is stressful. And I thought, no, it's not. This is my dream come true. I had given anything to have a baby. So I started to say, my baby is acting age appropriate. I never said, oh, they're a nightmare and they're so difficult. They drive you crazy. You lose your mind. I said, no, they're age appropriate. My daughter was running on the beach once with my friend and her daughter, who appeared to be the most perfect kid in the world. And she kept saying to me, why is your kid so bad? I'm like, she's not bad. She's age appropriate. I shout at her to stop. She's like a little puppy. She doesn't stop once. She doesn't stop twice, but she does stop on the 3rd time. She is acting age appropriate. She's not bad. I never say bad. And my friend who had a perfect kid, turned out later her kid was so introverted. She said, oh, I wish she was like yours and had a bit of character and could fight back. But my daughter's introverted and she's very passive and almost too obedient. And I dread the day she starts to date. I'm like, yeah, well, my daughter, I don't dread it because she's got an opinion and she fights back and she's not super compliant. And believe me, you don't want a super compliant child, especially a girl, because you don't want to go out with some idiot when they're 14 and be super compliant. He says, hey, take drugs, let's go shoplifting, let's have sex. So you have to always change something around. You've got a difficult, argumentative kid. That's how they learn to have an opinion and protect themselves. And so everything is down to the pictures you make in your head. Imagine this. Imagine you go to a fun fair and you look at one of those things swirling around, like maybe the Big Dipper, and people are screaming, literally screaming. You would never be able to go, well, they're screaming because they're terrified, or they're screaming because they're excited. It's actually both. And if you don't know, believe me, your mind doesn't even go, I'm terrified, my stomach's dropped, because I'm excited, because the feeling is the same. My fingers are tingling, adrenaline's going through me. I've worked with many, many, many rock stars. I've been working with the Eagles once, and I asked them what it was like to go on stage. I asked that question to Eric Clapton. They both said the same thing, where your fingers tingle, you feel the adrenaline, you go on stage. It's the best feeling in the world. But actually describing a panic attack is the same. My fingers tingle, my heart rate goes up, adrenaline pumps me. I'm having a panic attack. I'm feeling amazing. Even the feeling when you have an orgasm, that buildup of tension and the feeling that you can't control it, is actually an amazing feeling. So it's not the feeling, it's how you feel about the feeling. And when you change the words and go, I love this, this is excitement, this is amazing, or something simple. Hey, I'm in a long marriage. We conflict about things, but that's good because it's exciting. We have opinions. We're staying together. Whatever. My boss challenges me. Well, that's good that he challenges you. A lot of people I know who are sellers say, I love the difficult clients. The difficult ones are the ones that really grow me. When I have a difficult customer and I'm going to sell them my product, I'm so grateful, because if I can sell to the difficult ones, I can always sell to the easy ones, and the difficult ones each time teach me. I've had clients come and go, I don't like your perfume. I don't like that candle you're burning. I don't like that. And they've taught me a lot. Oh, okay, I shouldn't have those, because some people don't like it. I don't like that music on your audio. I just want no music. So difficult people teach us how to be even better than we already are. So tell yourself that they're my teachers, and then you won't feel, oh, I can't get this right. But more than anything, look at the words you are filling your mind up with that are shaping your reality. And if you don't like your reality, change your words.
We all experience getting knocked back. Many of us think, well, successful people don't. They're born with a silver spoon in their mouth and they just live a life that's amazing, but that's not true. There are people we admire who've had incredible knockbacks. Robert Downey Jr. went to jail, but now he has yet again a stellar film career. Martha Stewart went to jail. Jeffrey Archer went to jail. But we don't judge them for that. And even if we did, it wouldn't matter, because they don't judge themselves. They understand that in the tapestry of your entire life, it's not what happens to you, it's what you do about it, what you make of it. And we really admire people who come back from adversity, who come back from knockbacks, who have something awful happen to them and back they come, bigger and bouncier than ever. So what is your bounce back factor like? When you get rejected, you say things like, it's the end of the world, I'll never get over it. It's a bit like the song you might sing. Do you sing, oh, it's all over, I'll never get better, it's the end of the world, I'll never fall in love again? Or do you do a Beyonce and go, I'm a survivor, I'm going to make it? You know, the song everybody loves is Gloria Gaynor, I will survive. Go on now, go. Walk out the door. I don't need you anymore. Because she's singing a survivor song. And many songs that we hear are very negative songs. I can't live if living is without you. I can't go on. I'll die if you leave me. You're the only girl in the world for me. You're the only guy. That is not true. Human beings are not weak and they're not fragile. They are super resilient. But often we don't even know that we're resilient, and we use words like, this is going to kill me, this will break me, I'll die if that happens, I can't cope with that, it would kill me, it would finish me, it would be the end of the world. No, it wouldn't. You know what, I look back at my life and the things that I thought were the most painful, being rejected, I'm glad that happened. I'm so glad my first boyfriend dumped me. I'm delighted I was kicked out of college because I came back bigger than better. So many things happened that I could think, well, that was a tragedy, but it really wasn't. It wasn't the event, it's what I made of it. And we all experience hurt, rejection, knockbacks, and setbacks, all of us. There's a very famous runner in England called Paula Radcliffe who was running a marathon and she didn't win. She was predicted to win and she didn't. And she said, I just knew I had to win the next one. I had to wait for the next marathon and win then. Some Olympic athletes, I had to wait 4 years to come back and win, but I was determined to come back and win. I was all about the winning. And it's very important to be all about the winning. One of the most effective ways to be able to have a big bounce back, to be like a big bouncy rubber ball, is to understand the difference between destructive criticism and constructive criticism. It's also to understand that although criticism may hurt you, your own criticism hurts you way, way, way more. So destructive criticism, you don't want to let that in. You want to understand that people who seem to get pleasure from hurting you, belittling you, rejecting you, and criticizing you are unhappy people. One of my clients was an actor and he kept getting rejected, and I gave him a cushion, and it says there has never been a statue erected to a critic. I met a critic who critiqued books, and he said, you know, I thought that was my job, and I was very harsh and very cutting, and it gave me great pleasure to things like, oh, this book should not be put down lightly. Indeed, it should be thrown as far away from the unfortunate reader as possible. He said, but then I wrote my own book, and it got absolutely slated. And then I really realized what I was doing, making a living, laughing at people, mocking them, hurting them. He said, and I decided I didn't want to be a critic anymore because critics are not happy people. You know, if you've ever had to fire someone or dump someone, I bet it didn't give you pleasure. I bet you had to think, oh, I'm dreading telling this person I don't want to be with you. I'm going to say, look, it's not you, it's me. I'm just not ready. I can't get over someone else. Hardly any of us go, right, I'm going to dump you and hurt you and break your heart, and I'm going to love it. Even if you have to fire someone, I've had to do that. I have never enjoyed it. I try to do it super nice. I go, listen, you're so great at this and this, but this is just not right for you. And in our company, if we can, we try to move people into other areas because it's never nice to hurt someone. But one person I had to let go, I told her, honestly, this is not the right job for you. But I really liked her. We stayed friends. I stayed in touch. And she often says, I'm so glad you let me go because you were right. This just wasn't the right job for me. And she bounced back because I didn't diminish her or belittle her. But before you believe that someone else has the power to diminish you, think about the times when you have had to let someone go. In a relationship, in a business, in a career. How have you felt doing that? Probably not very good. And then understand that most people who have to let you go don't feel good either. And the people who are enjoying it, I can promise you they are really unhappy people. If someone gets pleasure from someone else's misfortune, that's an unhappy person. But remember too that the most important words you will ever hear in your whole life are the words you say to yourself. So if you get dumped, you have to decide, well, this wasn't the right relationship. I want someone who loves me as much as I love them. If I'm giving and they're taking, that's not right. And if someone ends a relationship with you, remember this. Everything they loved about you is still there. When they packed their bags and left, they didn't put in that bag everything they loved about you. All the wonderful things they said in the beginning are still there. You're still the same person. You are still lovable. Sometimes you have what I call a starter relationship. Like you have a starter home. It's lovely. You love your little studio. And you think, I've kind of grown out of this. I need someone being bigger. I don't want to live in the country and I want to live in the city, or vice versa. You can have starter relationships, just like you have starter careers, and just like you have starter homes. And that doesn't mean anything went wrong. It means this: your potential expands as you move towards it, and you have no idea. You can't have any idea what your potential is, because as you move towards it, it moves and it moves again. And sometimes you find someone, it's all wonderful, and then you just grow out of them. You grow out of a career, you grow out of a place, a home, and it's good to have change. But the most important thing is to say that I have a bounce back factor. I'm going to bounce back from rejection, bounce back from feeling I was replaced, bounce back. And you need to look at all the people that you admire and realize that they suffer too. Kylie Minogue, one of my clients, that I went to audition to be her backup dancer. I didn't get the part. I said, you know why? I'm not good enough. I went, no, darling, you're too tall. Look at Kylie. All her dancers are the same height as her. She doesn't want someone tall because it makes her small. All Madonna's backing dancers are men. She doesn't have women backing dancers because she doesn't want anyone to be better than her. And she is an amazing dancer. She's very gifted. But if you went to audition to be one of Madonna's dancers, you'd be rejected if you were female. Not because you're not good. When my little girl was a baby, I got stopped in the street and said, oh my God, this kid has got the most amazing hair. Can I book her for a modelling assignment for Gap? I'm like, sure. And so she, at 5 months old, did some modelling. Her picture was everywhere. It was lovely. And then they booked her again. And then they booked her a third time. We went for the casting, it's called, and they said, we don't want her. I said, why not? And they said, she's too pretty. You know, when people are buying baby clothes, if the baby's gorgeous, they don't look at the clothes. If we're selling baby toys or baby cribs and the baby's stunning like yours, they don't look at the crib. We need an ordinary baby. Yours is far too beautiful. And I love that, too beautiful to model. Think about that. Some actresses and actors go for a part and they go, no, this is not the lead. And you're too talented, too attractive, too noticeable. You'll outshine the lead character, so you can't have the supporting role. So often when you get rejected, you're too good, too talented, too smart, too something. And even if that's not true, you can still decide, I'm going to believe I was rejected because I was too good, too talented, too amazing, too something. You see, it's not the event, it's what it means to you. And you always get to choose the meaning. Events don't affect you. The meaning really, really does. Check out my next video here. The way you feel about anything at any time is down to two things: the pictures you make in your head and the words you say to yourself. And number one habit to stop you being successful is waiting for perfection.